I pass through the bowels of the monster?
Sanitarium, the point-and-click psychological horror experience. I've been looking forward to covering Sanitarium. Beyond the Clock Tower games, I haven't delved into the world of point-and-click horror titles on the channel. It's unexplored territory for me. I didn't play a ton of point-and-click titles in my earlier years, and if I did, they were mostly from Lucasarts. But I have been aware of this game for some time. I remembered as a kid seeing the box art of Sanitarium. You don't forget a box art like this. I saw it at a friend's house. He had an older brother by several years who was into games like this. Granted, I would have been too young for a game like this. Then again, that older brother of said friend introduced us to the first Silent Hill around this time frame, so there you go. I'm also going to take a bit of a different approach in how I structure this video due to the nature of point-and-click titles. This will be more of a playthrough with my various thoughts throughout, so spoilers throughout. And if you are interested in playing Sanitarium, whether revisiting it or playing it for the first time, there's a video I'll link to in the description and pinned comment from the channel GGRC on how to run the game on Windows 10. I did have a bit of anxiety going into Sanitarium, as I read the Steam discussions and there were several topics on various glitches users encountered. That said, I had no issues on my end. You know how it is with older games. Always check PC Gaming Wiki or YouTube before you dive in. And a special shout out to the fellow Boulder punchers who support the channel through Patreon, memberships, one-time donations. More info in the pinned comment and description of this video if you're interested in supporting the channel further. Well, let's dive in. I will note I did brighten up some of these cutscenes in post as they can be quite dark, so let's start off with the game's opening cutscene to set the stage.
Hon, you're not gonna believe it. I found the answer. All those years, I should have seen it. There's more. I'll tell you when I get home.
What's happening? Where am I?
We awaken in an unfamiliar place. Our protagonist doesn't remember who he is, and his face is all bandaged up. Meantime, well, let's call him the Nameless One. It does remind me a bit of the opening of Planescape Torment. Part of that is the amnesia, but it's also the game's perspective. The use of an isometric perspective. The time frame of Sanitarium's release in 1998 was very much the heyday of the isometric perspective in games. Many RPGs made use of the Infinity engine from BioWare, Planescape Torment included. While a different engine, the first two Fallouts used the isometric perspective. It was common to see for strategy games. Blizzard made heavy use of the perspective in their games. While modern games still use the isometric perspective, that's more in the indie realm or Kickstarter spiritual successors. But it's interesting to know its usage in Sanitarium. When I think of a point-and-click title game, I don't think isometric. It's either from the side perspective, like a Lucasarts title, or first person like Myst. As a result, it has a different feeling for its atmosphere from its contemporaries in the point-and-click space. Let's go talk with some of the others here and see what we can learn about this place. Like Don here. He makes mention of a Dr. Morgan.
Why are you in this place? What brought you here?
Isn't it obvious? Hide ding from him.
Him? I don't...
Shut up, or he'll hear you, stupid voice.
How can I find this Dr. Morgan? I think I need to talk to him.
He'll find you. The best witch doctor in the land he is. He'll save us.
Can you tell me where anyone is? Dr. Morgan? Anyone?
They've fled. Cowards. Not great warriors like us. Oh, but not Morgan. He'll find us.
Martin also talks about Dr. Morgan, although Martin doesn't seem like the most reliable source of information. He seems to have an issue with bugs. I'm not talking about one that plagues games.
What bugs, Martin? I don't see any. Maybe they're not real.
Are you serious? These blood-sucking insects are bent on destroying the world.
Martin, think about it. How are some bugs going to destroy the world?
Well, look at them. These aren't normal bugs. These is robots. Little teeny robots.
Or what about Lenny over here? This mention of a pumpkin patch, mother, and a school? Keep those in mind. We'll get an idea of what he's talking about soon enough.
Where is everyone, Lenny?
Where you should be. You should listen. Mother made them all go away.
I must not have heard her. Lenny, where did she tell them to go to?
To school. Yeah, she made them go to school.
Since I didn't hear your mom, can you tell me how to get to school?
There's a tower in the middle that we could reach by using a towel on a wire. There's a videotape we could watch of a past appointment we had with Dr. Morgan.
Can you hear me? It's Dr. Morgan. Your delusions almost took the life from you this time.
My face, it's in bandages. Where am I? Who am I?
You must have thought you had somewhere important to go when you stole that car.
Oh, no.
You did a lot of damage to that face of yours in the crash.
I'm sorry. I can't believe.
No apologies. All we need is your best effort. And before you can give us that, you need some rest. Bruce, help our lad back to his room. Don't worry, son. We'll talk again soon.
There's an ancient key on the wall in the tower that looks to be from Aztec culture. It's our ticket out of here. Before moving on from this chapter, I do want to bring up a few things. Like the characters we come across. We're going to come across many eccentric individuals in our journey. Many not in the sanest state of mind. But they're all memorable in some shape or form. There can be a fair amount of dialogue to go through with each of them, but each is able to convey their worldview, their relationship with others in an economical way. The voice acting works for what the game is going for. Interesting to look up the voice actors on IMDb, and beyond a couple of exceptions, are all names, no pictures. Some might have a couple of other credits from around this time frame, but that's about it. The team mentioned in post-mortem they wish they had a larger budget to get more recognizable names, but I never found anything that took me out of it. In one of those cases of wearing multiple hats, some staff on the dev team also did some voice acting to help save on the budget. Another area I want to touch on is item usage. By that I mean how your character reacts when you use an incorrect item. I always love to see these in point-and-click title games. There's a lot of character here in our protagonist's reaction.
That's not right. Stupid. Now what? Well, this isn't working. What was I thinking? No good. Stupid.
That said, I will always be most fond of Lucasarts titles like The Dig when it comes to this.
I can't use these two things together.
I also want to bring up Sanitarium's menu. Hearing that child's voice with the reverse effect and watching the eyes move with your cursor, one of those things that adds so much to a game's character.
Use cinematics. Quit game. Text options. Audio options. Settings. Keyboard configuration. Show credits. Return to game.
It's one of those elements of game design that's become a bit of a lost art, where most modern games become indistinguishable from one another with their menus, where everything's become focus grouped to death. Menus can be a great way to add to a game's flavor, Sanitarium being a great example. Same case goes for the gaming manual, a relic of yesteryear. Once that 360, PS3, Wii era hit, most turned into a handful of pages covering the EULA and controls. Now, Sanitarium's manual is quite short for its time frame, although it does have a section at the end that's a short little walk through the game's first chapter. I miss those kind of things. There's a few quotes scattered about from various authors and poets, like John Clare, "Dear Sir, I'm in a madhouse and quite forget your name or who you are," or the poet Dante, "This way for the sorrowful city, this way for eternal suffering, this way to join the lost people." And of course, William Shakespeare, "Though this be madness, yet there is method in it." I always love to look up the system requirements for these older titles. So this, Windows 95. Sanitarium supports 256 color, high resolution SVGA graphics and digital sound effects. Requires a Pentium 90, 16 megabytes of RAM, 4x CD, 16-bit sound card, DirectX 5, 30 megabytes of free hard drive space. Oh, those days of that. To note, this was a 3-disc game. The constraints you had to work with. On the note of the cutscenes, they're very much the mold of the late 90s PC game cutscene. Bringing up Fallout again, they do remind me of cutscenes from those games in their look and how they're shot. But let's keep moving on with the story. Using the Aztec key on this angel statue at the top will grant us an exit from this place. We'll move on to the next location and to Chapter 2, and this is where Sanitarium truly comes into its own.
Bright tower, what has become of you?
You're alive. Am I going mad?
Listen, hear the cries of the children. The innocent are dying, and you only think of yourself. Can you not see the light of heaven has dimmed?
What can I do?
Seek the truth.
With this angel statue, we're warped to a small town, one full of children with deformities. There's no other adults around. You have various buildings here, a boarded up school, a church, town hall, a cemetery. In the southeast section, there's a pumpkin patch. Remember what Lenny said about pumpkin patch? About something he referred to as mother? He mentioned something about mother making them all go away by making them go to school. Entering the school, we'll discover the fate of the adults in this town.
Decayed bodies? Are these the parents? If I asked the kids directly, it might upset them.
Talking to these kids, our nameless one will remember his name.
Thanks, mister. You're nice. What's your name?
Max? Sarah would like to see you now.
My name is Max.
That's a nice name. Hey, now you aren't a stranger.
Remember that name of Sarah which comes up in the cutscene of Max's past. There's another fractured glimpse into Max's past when we visit the church.
Keep seeing things.
I have to note Max's shifting facial expressions during dialogue exchanges. Even with his face all bandaged up, they can still convey his emotions. Plenty of character expression. In a post-mortem, the developer Dreamforge Entertainment mentioned feedback from a potential publisher that Max's face shouldn't be all bandaged up. The reason being that the player wouldn't be able to identify with the main character. But they ignored this, and good reason for it. In that post-mortem, the team mentioned their initial draft was full of awkward lines and weak characters. Mike Nicholson, the art and design lead, took on the task of fleshing out the dialogue and the dialogue trees. After a bit of digging, the team discovered the issue plaguing the dialogue and characters. There's a lack of history and backstory to these worlds we come across. They fleshed out the backstories, the themes, and character motives. The end result is being one of the most engrossing games I played on a narrative front, especially this chapter. We'll be moving on to other areas beyond this town before we know it. But with how realized this stretch is, you could have made a whole game out of it. There's so much at play and going on here. There's a whole batch of kids that we could talk with in town, each with their own unique spin on the world, although they all answer to Mother. The writing does a great job conveying not only their naive nature, but also that cruelty that children can possess.
Why does your sister call you Mushhead?
She says my head looks like I got put in a blender.
Well, that's a rotten thing to say.
Yeah, he's been pretty neat lately. M-E-E-M. I used to have a goldfish named Max, but my cat ate it. He pooped orange for 2 days.
That's disgusting. Do your parents know you tell stories like that?
Yeah, but they don't say anything. Orange poop, orange poop.
But that's because they were all girls. Girls are a lot smarter than boys.
Nuh-uh. Girls are stupider.
Shut up, Billy, you little retard.
I want to make note of this one kid here who goes by Lumpy, his real name Larry.
What's your name?
Well, since all the adults went away, everyone calls me Lumpy.
Do you have another name? A real name?
Well, my real name is Larry, but no one calls me that anymore. What's your name, mister?
Several kids here have older names that dropped in popularity over the years, Larry being the one jumping out to me the most. If you know any Larrys, what's the youngest Larry that you know? I'm sure there's someone out there in my audience named Larry, I apologize to you. But looking up Larry's popularity as a name, it was a top 15 name from the late 30s to the late 50s. Afterward, it had a steady decline until dropping off in the 2010s. You could say that about several names of the kids we come across in town here, but Larry stood out to me the most. I had so many questions running through my mind during this stretch. What's the symbolism of what we come across? How much of this is in the head of Max? Is this something from his past, a dream, something from his unconscious? Sanitarium came out a little under a year before the first Silent Hill in early 1999, a landmark title for psychological horror, where people have spent years, decades dissecting the meaning of the games, especially the team's silent output of the series. How is this going to unfold in Sanitarium? Are we going to get clear answers, or have elements left up to interpretation? What also helps suck you into the world of Sanitarium is the music. Especially the music track during this chapter. It blends in with all the ambient noises of the town to create something truly haunting. Something that once sounded out of place in American McGee's Alice, which released a couple years later after Sanitarium in 2000. Man, this time frame was ripe with titles diving into dark, psychological themes. The sound of the piano here screams late 90s, and I can't get enough of it. Noting the composers, there are two staff listed for music and sound effects, Stephen Bennett and Jamie McMenemy. Stephen only had a couple of other credits on Moby Games, but Jamie McMenemy had many. He worked at Insomniac Games for what looks to be over 20 years now as its audio director. While playing through Sanitarium, I was curious if there would be any references made to the song of the same name by Metallica off their 1986 album Master of Puppets. Interesting to note that they did try to get the rights to use the song during the game's opening cutscene, but were unable to. I don't think it was more until around the early 2000s that Metallica started to license out tracks to various works. I remember in Old School, which is about 2003, they had Master of Puppets playing. One thing that becomes more notable during this section is the walking speed. There is no option for running. Depending on how you handle things, you may be going back and forth from one side of the town to the other. While it's not too big an issue due to how engrossing the world is, it is something to note. Does it feel like a means of padding out the game's length? Maybe a little, but nothing too egregious. Especially when you compare to how modern games pad out their length these days with checklist simulators and busy work. And like many point-and-click titles, Sanitarium does have some issues with pixel hunting, where something you need to pick up to advance blends into the background. For example, the ringing of this church bell. You need to throw a rock at it, or opening up the tractor by the barn to pick up an item. Wasn't too egregious, but I did have a few moments throughout Sanitarium where pixel hunting did rear its ugly head. To advance here, we'll need to play a game of hide and seek with the kids. Round them up as they hide around town one by one, and we'll earn a key to a locked up store. But there's still one that we're missing. Where are they? Dennis mentioned it's their secret weapon. We'll find the answer in the cemetery, a revelation that's one of the darker moments I've come across in the game.
Oh my god. This decayed child must be Carol, Dennis's secret weapon.
There's a lock barring entrance to the pumpkin patch. 3 digits. Wonder what they could be. Well, there are a couple of hints, one from the tic-tac-toe game and one at the church. 451, or 0451. The immersive sim calling card. To note, this code wasn't much a thing at this point in time. You had the first System Shock a few years prior to Sanitarium. Titles like System Shock 2, Deus Ex had yet to release. So chalk this up more to a coincidence, or maybe someone on staff was a fan of System Shock or Fahrenheit 451. And if you look at the context through the church billboard, it's referring to the Book of Song. To note, the billboard references chapter 4, verse 51, which doesn't exist in the Book of Psalms. Is this an oversight or an intentional choice? Who knows? There is a chapter 45 in the Book of Psalms. In that case, the first verse is the following: "My heart is stirred by a noble theme as I recite my verses for the king. My tongue is the pen of a skillful writer." Does this have meaning to the story that plays out in Sanitarium? I don't think so. That said, there was skillful writers at play here, as I mentioned earlier. It's commendable how the game is able to grab your attention and suck you into its world. The writing plays a key role in that. There's some news articles we can find to help flesh out what happened in this town, like a comet falling and crashing into the barn, broken families involving murder and abuse of children. Before entering the pumpkin patch, we can talk to one of the children, Maria. Through the other children, we'll learn how she's been bad with Mother punishing her.
They did as they were told. Mother wanted to teach me a lesson.
What lesson, Maria?
Not to look for our parents. Mother said we should never, ever do that. But I was too curious. Mother saw me. She told the other kids that I was bad. Then she made them put me in the patch. I don't remember much, just those nasty birds, black wings. They pegged at my eyes. It hurt a lot. But when the birds were done, Mother took the pain away.
That's horrendous. How could she do such a thing to a child?
It's okay. It's not so bad now. I'm kind of used to it. Anyway, once Mother wakes up, everything will be better.
Once we enter the pumpkin patch, we'll have some quote-unquote combat encounters. Max picks up a scythe to slice and dice some birds and this scarecrow skeleton. It's quite primitive. Click on your target when they're in range. If you die here, you're sent back to the entrance of the pumpkin patch. In development post-mortem, the dev team mentioned they wish they gave more attention to the combat. Due to the lack of focus on combat, they trimmed down or outright removed combat stretches. It was a means to break up the pacing between puzzles. But you know, this is a point-and-click title. I would have been fine without it altogether. There's also something else the development team wished they gave more attention to during this chapter. It was possible in the initial version of Sanitarium to encounter a game-breaking bug. If the player wandered for too long and met certain conditions, they couldn't enter the building, blocking off progress. Despite extensive testing, no one at Dreamforge or the game's publisher, ASC Games, encountered this bug. Remember, this is a 1998 release. It's not like today where you could release a half-finished title full of bugs and fix it post-release with patches. Back then, you only had a tiny bit of leeway. Max shows to have some quality taste in music, paraphrasing a famous Neil Young song after defeating the pumpkin skeleton.
Got him. I guess he thought it was better to burn up than fade away.
And at long last, we get to have a chat with Mother. There's been much build up to this moment, and it does not disappoint.
Why were you so concerned about Carol?
She talked to me when no one would listen. I tried to communicate with them, but Carol's voice was like music to me. She was my favorite, and I failed her.
How did the preacher figure into all of this? What could he possibly have done?
He was a superstitious fool. He spread paranoia, swaying the others away from rational thought. The humans put their trust and faith in him and followed. When the preacher assured them that there wasn't a real threat to him, they listened.
To take care of Mother, we'll have to MacGyver a few items together around the barn to fry her. If you go and talk to the kids now, they'll repeat their devotion to Mother in their own ways. Some with slight differences due to their personality, but the message remains the same.
Mother is good. Mother is the way. Mother protects us from the meat. M-E-E-T. Meat must be killed so the seedlings can grow.
The meat's gotta be destroyed so the seedlings can grow. That's us, the seedlings. We're all Mother's seedlings.
After a bit of pixel hunting frustration, placing the items in the right place did take some time for me. We'll fry Mother, although we don't see it happen ourselves, only the flashing coming from inside the barn. I was hoping to see that happen for myself for maximum revenge, but I could see why they did so, to save time on the animations, which I'll talk about later, but also giving the player the chance to fill in the blanks. Returning to town, all the kids are gone, save for Maria in the northwest, with a path out of here. With that, Max returns to familiar territory after leaving.
Thank you for freeing us, Max. Now that Mother is destroyed, the children are slowly returning to normal. They've all gone through the tunnel to join the rest of the world. I waited for you.
Yes, but where are we going?
Max?
Asylum? How did I get back here? Those children seem so real. Did I save them, or am I going completely mad?
When we enter, there's an annoying music track that plays here. Annoying in an intentional way. It strikes that balance of not driving you up the wall, but where you'd rather have something else playing. Which is Max, we could do soon enough. Blends in with various stock scream effects you've heard elsewhere to drive the odd tone of this chapter, like talking to quote-unquote Elvis here. This stretch harkens back to the game's intro with some of the patients we came across and their eccentric ways.
What's your name?
Are you serious, man? I'm the king.
King of what?
King of rock and roll, man. I'm Elvis.
The Elvis? But I thought you were, dead.
Oh, that was all a hoax, man. The pressure was getting to me. I needed a break.
Break from what? All your fame?
Fame, drugs, food, you name it. I needed time to relax, sober up, slim down. Know what I mean?
Yes. Well, it looks like you've shed a few pounds since that Hawaiian concert.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
As well, like the Church of Bob and his congregation in the Northwest.
For your performance of a miracle in our accursed times, I dub thee Saint Max of the House of Bob. Here is thy staff of righteousness. Lean on it, whilst you walk on the path of the Lord. Hallelujah!
Thanks. I'll use it for the good of mankind.
Hallelujah! Amen!
It's here where we can meet Dr. Morgan, the man we've heard mentioned many a time up until now. He's the one playing these records.
I was somewhere else for a while.
Well, it's good that you're safe, Max. But you seem to get into trouble whenever you go away. I've told you before that you need to stay in control if you expect to get well.
I didn't just go away in my mind, Dr. Morgan. I was in an actual place, a small town with children. They were real.
Now, Max, don't get all excited. I can have one of the orderlies restrain you if necessary. Will it be necessary, Max?
No, I'm fine.
There's a radio in Dr. Morgan's office that mentions a little tidbit of news. We'll find a few of these radios over the coming chapters that help piece a few things together.
Active only in newborns, DNAV goes on to deform, cripple, and kill victims within a few years.
There's several records we could switch between. Depending on which one we play, a different patient will dance. I have to make note of the animations in Sanitarium. There's a goofy charm about them. In the post-mortem, the team mentioned they wish they gave more time to the animations. They found the animations of the end product to be stiff and unnatural, and they are, but again, there's a bit of that goofy charm about them. In a way, they do add to some of that unease factor of things being off in our journey. I have to make special mention of this one record called Rockabilly Swing Thing, which the Elvis patient takes a liking to. Thing is, this doesn't sound anything like Elvis or Rockabilly. To the point I'm wondering if the game's trying to be funny here, or despite this man's knowledge of the king, he's out to lunch with the music itself. There's something about this music track that makes me feel like I should be racing through a track in Diddy Kong Racing. Beyond Dr. Morgan and the patients, there are some staff we could talk to. Some give insight into how Max ended up here and how he ended up in his current condition. Talking to this one hooded woman, Max has a few scattered memories return.
Doctor? Are you my doctor?
Welcome back to the States, Max. I've already managed to assemble a team of top researchers in Mercy, but I'm especially glad that you finally decided to accept my offer. Dr. Lawton.
So, Max Lawton here was a doctor doing research for the Mercy Institute. Some pieces are starting to fall into place, but there's still many pieces to the puzzle we haven't found yet. Speaking of puzzles, this chapter has one major one. Switch the direction of water flow in these pipes to fill the water at the gargoyle fountain. Made me think of the hacking minigame in the first Bioshock, at least on first appearance. And I will admit this one took a while to figure out with various fiddling. Looking into the filled fountain, Max will have another flashback. Remember that one from the prior chapter where Max ran off to see his sister Sarah? Well, we'll get a continuation of it.
I do not know you, sir, but I thank you. What is your greatest wish?
I wish that I could see my sister again.
Max? Sarah would like to see you now.
Hey, Squirt, feeling any better? I don't think I can go to the circus this year. We'll go next year. Can you do me a favor, Max? Dolly, the one Dad won me the last year at the circus, Mr. Clown, could you get it for me in the toy box? Oh yeah, sure. Where is it? I can't find it, Sarah. I can't find it. I can't find it.
With that, again off to a new location and a change of character. Now we're playing as Sarah, Max's sister. There were posters of the circus during the town section. Something unconscious within the psyche of Max must have brought him here, or Sarah in this case. She isn't deformed like the kids we saw earlier, but she can have a similar attitude. The game's ability to make characters likable and memorable in such a short time frame is staggering. Some of the better ones I've come across in the game.
Wonder at the fate of a ferocious dog.
No, not electricity.
Although speaking of attitude, the other people around here at the circus aren't the most friendly.
My name's Sarah. What's yours?
Like guy.
Like I?
Yeah, like I give a rat's ass your name's Sarah.
Do you like it here at the circus?
Yeah, this is a real paradise. Maybe when I get done talking to your dumb ass, I'll grab a martini by the pool.
You sure do cuss a lot.
So, what are you gonna do? Tell my mommy? Oh, dearie me, whatever shall I do?
To be fair, they're not in the best of conditions. A flood stranded them on this island. There's no other customers beyond Sarah. To make matters worse, there's a squid that escaped from its cage and wreaking havoc. It's been killing those one by one on the island. The strongman Mino Gino here has a crush on Inferno, the fire-breathing lady. He's been writing love poems to her, but keeps them anonymous. To which Sarah suggests Mino Gino gets a tattoo of her name on his arm. Going that far, Sarah, already? Who do you think you are, Anissa Joma? Besides, what if things don't work out between them? Just ask The Undertaker. Getting a tattoo of your wife's name on your neck wasn't the best of ideas considering how the relationship panned out. When talking to Inferno, the fire-breathing woman that Gino has a crush on, we will have another flashback. One like we had in the town's church a couple of chapters back with a bit of a twist.
Wow. Do you really breathe fire?
Jennifer, take this man Max to be your lawfully wedded husband?
I do breathe fire, that's right. What's your name, little girl?
Jennifer will teach Sarah how to breathe fire, which will come in handy later. We enter this unsettling attraction, at which point Max reemerges for a brief moment. I have to make note of this stock explosion effect that warps us from one side of the island to the other after we make our way through the House of Mirrors. Stock effects, love it.
Beware the pit of darkness. You can only pass through safely when you have sought out the wand flask. I feel sick.
But let's go check out this pit of darkness the woman was talking about. Timber, who we freed earlier when we lockpicked this cage, made his way down here. This is where the squid we've heard so much about resides. And here it's time for another combat encounter. This is actually going to be the last one for the game. Not the most intuitive and thrilling. It's awkward, but a different kind of awkward compared to survival horror combat.
Feeling so freak.
This chapter now wraps up, and we're now emerging in a basement. This is a more narrative-heavy chapter, looking into the past of Max and Sarah's family. Bring up the animations again. These jerky, low frame rate animations work well for the ghosts. Add a great sense of unease to this chapter.
Max, come upstairs. There's nothing you could do, son. It's not your fault that you couldn't find it. Come on. Your mother wants you to help her in the kitchen.
Okay, Dad. I'm coming.
There's another radio we can listen here that gives some more insight into Mercy, where Max was working as we saw in the flashback in the asylum.
Mercy Corporation stocks continue to rise as the Hope drug treatment is being used worldwide.
We could see the impact that Sarah's condition and death has on Max and her parents, Stephen and Diane.
Stephen, why do you do this to yourself?
I just miss her, Diane. I miss her a lot.
We all do, honey. But torturing yourself watching old videotapes every night isn't the answer. Come to bed. It's getting late.
I guess you're right.
In the attic, we can find the clown doll. This is the one Max looked for but couldn't find in that earlier cutscene. And once we find that, we can enter Sarah's room and give the ghost of Sarah this doll of the clown. In this next moment, man, this hits like a gut punch.
You found it after all these years. I'm sorry it took so long. I'm so sorry. Don't be sad, Max.
I thought I let you down when you needed me most.
No, don't think that. You could never let me down. You're my hero.
Hero?
You're trying to save all those kids. I know you can do it. I love you.
I love you too.
In the span of only 40 seconds, Sanitarium pulls off one of the most emotional scenes I've come across in the game. Now, this scene would have hit as hard if we switched back to Max earlier in the mansion, but to play Sarah up until this moment, brilliant choice. Gives us more time to know her, so when that reveal happens, it hits that much harder. The room filling with color as we switch back to Max was a brilliant move on the developer's part. It's a great demonstration of how economical and powerful the storytelling is within Sanitarium. On the psychological horror front, it's not quite at the level of something like a Silent Hill or Rule of Rose, but it's right up there. And then switching back to the asylum, it's quite the jolt, especially where Max ends up.
Goodbye, Sarah. It's time for me to face the future. Rest well.
This section dials up on the puzzles, but there's also a few narrative threads to add to that puzzle. There's a flashback between Dr. Morgan, or Jacob, and Max in their medical school days. We get to see Jacob's father, being harsh on him. Again, there's another radio, which gives a bit more info about the Hope drug that the Mercy Corporation are working on.
Today, the world mourns as children who successfully responded to the Hope drug begin to die.
Now this rotating magnet puzzle gets my stamp of approval of a quality point-and-click puzzle. It's not crystal clear right away what you need to do. With a little fiddling you figure out the logic in short order. But to take that logic and solve it, yeah, this took longer than I care to admit. But many times it was also result in rehooking another hook, so it did take quite a while to get it. But solving this puzzle will grant us access to this gruesome lab. The other puzzle in this chapter has us finding out the door code. With these chalkboards, we need to rearrange these ramblings of a man on the brink of sanity to spell out a phrase.
I search in vain for the elusive solution to this, a most intriguing puzzle. Evading me the way a mouse does a cat, the source of insanity remains hidden from me. Darting from flesh to muscle, muscle to bone, and back again to the fortress of the mind, this evil seems always to maintain one step ahead of me. How can I trap what I cannot see?
Youth, hide the key to salvation. Youth hides the key to salvation.
What awaits for us on the other side of the door? Many answers, with many more questions as we close off this chapter.
God! Huh?
There you are. Been wandering again. You know you can't come in here.
We've
been through this before. If you ever want to get better, you have to let me help you. I know all this must be confusing to you, even frightening. But this work is going to help so many people. Sick people. People with no hope. Calm down. You're going to hurt yourself. Those straps can hold a man twice your strength.
Now we enter the realm of the Hive, and the overactive imagination of Max, or the game's developers, or both.
The only good bug is a dead one.
In a way, it reminds me of the chapter with the town of kids. Not the content itself, but how fleshed out this stretch is. I'll note the mention of flesh with how much we come across in this bizarre stretch. Again, that's something I must commend about Sanitarium. Like the town, this area has a rich backstory and fleshed out characters. Something you could build a whole game around. While it's a longer chapter, it's still but a part of the grand scheme of Sanitarium. In a way, it can remind me of a well-realized town you'd find in something like an RPG, but instead of being able to revisit it for later, this is a one-time stop. It will soon be cast off like the other chapters before it. And as you can see, this world has quite the shift. In a way, it does have a bit of a H.R. Geiger feel to its look. It's packed to the brim with detail.
The insect is performing a grotesque experiment, putting bits of machinery into it.
So what exactly is going on here? Well, quite a bit. I get enough you could build a whole game around, but this is only a pit stop in the grand scheme of Sanitarium. Max here is Grimwall, a Cyclops, and there is mention of a Groma and a Queen and a war with his people against the insectoids. There is a TV newscast that we can watch that gives some information about this world we're in. One of the others we come across here will also give a lot of insight into what's going on in this world.
In an attempt to halt the infestation of the insect horde that is sweeping across our nation, leading entomologist Gromna will lead a team to infiltrate and examine the ever-growing hive. When asked why he was risking his own life on this mission, Gromna simply replied that he was willing to sacrifice anything to stop the infestation. When he heard the news, President Agris said, "Gromna is truly a great man, and we all wish him much success."
This chapter is one of the more notable puzzles in the game, one that looks like it came from another world. When you start fiddling around with it, and you start to decipher the logic behind it, piece by piece, it falls into place. That said, the largest issue I had with the puzzle at first was knowing what was clickable and what wasn't. But from there, the pieces begin to fall into place, and ends up being quite straightforward. All you need is a bit of fiddling around to get it. Plus, look how cool it looks. On the puzzles within Sanitarium, this one's my favorite.
No more genocide today, monsters. No more embers will be delivered now. I'm certain our fine craft is resting.
We'll have more flashbacks into the past life of Max, like how him and his wife learned about the work of Dr. Morgan and his work on Hope.
They found a way to slow down the disease. It says here that a Dr. Morgan was ultimately responsible for developing the DNAV treatment. Didn't you study with the Dr. Morgan back in med school?
I was still a sophomore when he earned his doctorate.
Well, the treatment's called Hope. It's supposed to decelerate the growth of the DNAV, almost doubling the lifespan of affected children.
The Aztecs found a way to survive the plague of Quetzalcoatl without conventional modern medicine. Well, hey, if Morgan is close to a cure, a true cure, then maybe he can use another set of hands. Maybe it's time to pack up here and go.
The more we explore and learn about this hive, the more we see the overlap between here and the real world. How Gromna here, his work and his betrayals are the equivalent of Dr. Morgan and his work on the Hope drug. And again, this chapter does have an unfortunate moment of frustrating pixel hunting. There's something locked up in Gromna's quarters. Well, the key is right next to it, under this pillow, but to feel a bit pixel hunty, for a lack of a better term to find it, there's an audio-based puzzle near the end stretch of this chapter. Replicate the melody from these creatures into this device. These can always be tricky puzzles. Make it too easy, players will wonder what's the point. If the melody doesn't leap around notes, it can be difficult to decipher, especially for those who are a bit tone deaf. One game I covered a few videos back, Kudelka, had this issue with a puzzle. That had a melody-based puzzle that took a while to decipher due to how similar the melodies were, and the notes, even though I like to think I have a decent ear for these kind of things. The one Sanitarium, much better. Not too easy, but a nice sense of satisfaction about solving. In a post-mortem on Sanitarium, the development team mentioned they wanted to have a large combat stretch during this chapter. And what we come across so far does make sense. Grimwall or Max here versus the Hive. This ended up on the cutting room floor. Seeing how I feel about combat, that's okay with me. While we won't deal with Gromna face to face, we'll get to witness him making a grandiose speech to viewers. The low frame rate on the animations of the insectoid in the background amps up this unsettling feeling of this moment.
After long ages of waiting, the time has come. Today you assemble as outsiders, invaders. Tomorrow, your troops will sweep down upon the city in a murderous wave of retribution. For too long, you have known suffering. You have dwelt beneath the surface and watched your aggressors live in lands where you once lived. Will you remain underground forever? Can you endure this terrible injustice for one more day?
Before we close off this chapter, we'll have another flashback of Max working. Realization hits him that the answer was in front of him the whole time. And then this chapter ends with a nuke being dropped on the Hive. Max returns to his human form, emerging from a Morgue cabinet. This moment reminded me of Shadowrun on SNES. That game begins with our main character, thought to be dead, emerging out of a Morgue cabinet, with no memory of who he is. If you've never played the SNES version of Shadowrun, do give it a try. It's one of the more out there, unique, and overlooked titles on the system. But back to Sanitarium. We'll come across a few interesting figures to chat with in the Morgue, starting with his corpse on the table.
Beware, Max. The closer you come to reaching your goal, the more danger you are in. Someone seeks to keep you here with us forever. One who will do anything to keep you from leaving the asylum.
And this confounding contraption of a door serves as the first puzzle of the chapter. At first I thought one of my fears came true. Reading those Steam posts about other people getting stuck with glitches, for a while the door puzzle felt like something wasn't acting the way it should. But no, after some more fiddling around, that turned out not to be the case. The mouse can be a bit finicky with the direction you pull these levers. Once I got that right, everything fell into place. We'll get more flashbacks with Max and Dr. Morgan in their days as co-workers. Dr. Morgan has been cutting the funding of Max's work. Max's team seems to be making strides to some kind of cure for the DNAV virus. That said, Morgan wants Max's team working on the Hope drug to make it better, and he has his reasons for doing so.
Maybe you're not as bright as I thought.
You know, I think I figured you out. You're not interested in a cure. You just want hope to bring you more prestige, more money. you smart bastard! Give me back my department, otherwise I'll leave. I'll take my research with me and find a company that's more concerned with finding a cure than filling its pockets.
I can't believe that your opinion of me is so low, Max. We're friends. You're blowing the whole thing out of proportion, taking this personally. Your sister didn't die of DNAV, Max.
I apologize.
No, it's all right. Those cutbacks are based solely on existing statistics. The truth is that it's difficult to measure the success of your research against the proven methods of the Hope treatment. Look, you don't have to leave Mercy to continue with your project. I'll look over the numbers again. We'll work something out.
There's a couple more individuals we could chat with in the morgue, that being this poor old man here in one of the units. Oh, and a talking trio in the graveyard. And again, that's pretty tame with what we come across, especially after the prior chapter.
Fool! The light. It is housed within the heart of ancient mighty warriors. They alone understand the true meaning of sacrifice.
I don't understand. What do you sacrifice?
Freedom, movement, growth. My limbs ache to stretch upwards into the nurturing sunlight. Yet I must remain steadfast, lest my trunk stray from its position in the grove. I am he who must remain in place.
We'll come across Morgan, but he warps away, leaving us to solve this Aztec puzzle. This was one I was dreading when I was collecting the clues. Do I have the right idea, or am I way off mark? These be the right symbols to line up? Well, I ended up surprising myself and didn't overthink this one. Line up these symbols, which can shift a couple panels depending on where you click. Sometimes you have one of those moments in a point-and-click title where it all comes together for you in short order when it comes to solving a puzzle. And this was one of those moments for me. Max shares my enthusiasm by saying yes with 2 S's as we move on to the next chapter.
Yes! What the?
We've had bits and pieces of Aztec culture showing up in Sanitarium up until now. The key we found in the first chapter came up during cutscenes, the puzzle at the end of the last chapter, but now we're immersed into this world. The Oracle of this village will get us up to speed with what's going on.
What of this village? Why was I summoned?
It is Quetzalcoatl, Holy One. He has returned.
What nonsense is this? He sits on his majestic throne in the heavens, not in this pathetic dung heap of a village.
Oh, no, Sacred One. He truly has returned, just as prophesied on the Wall of Sorrow.
If you speak the truth, then I must seek him. Where is he?
He stands atop the angry mountain, Your Grandness. He is using his magic to bring forth the flood of the land to kill us all.
Some notes on the Aztec elements the game uses during this chapter. Now, I'm not well versed in the culture of Aztecs, so most of this is preliminary information with searches. Quetzalcoatl, the god who has brought destruction to this village, was a prominent deity in Aztec culture. Here, Max takes the form of Olmec, Holy Warrior. Olmecs were a Mesoamerican civilization residing in the Gulf Coast region of modern-day Mexico, from about 1200 to 400 BC. This civilization predated the Aztecs and Mayans, and would have an influence on their culture. It's unknown why the Olmecs seemed to vanish around 400 BC. Those well-versed about the Aztec culture, feel free to chime in the comments about them. Again, like the Town chapter, the Hive chapter, this is another stretch you could build a whole game around. The many characters, living or dead, ones we come across, each with their own history, is quite staggering. Our goal here is to deal with Quetzalcoatl, who's too powerful at the moment. We'll have to collect a few items and solve a few puzzles first.
You cannot touch me. Yet I have gained much power. The soul of the shaved head upon me feed my magic. He is too powerful. I must find a way to destroy the evil one.
Max, or Olmec here, can do things that mere mortals couldn't. Well, most mere mortals.
Boulders are no match for the mighty Olmec.
There's one puzzle during this chapter where we need to determine the birth order of the spirits we come across. Now I had a hunch this one was going to happen. When you talk with them, they'll mention their elders or those younger than them. So I wrote these down and then worked out the order. I love these kind of brain teasers. Back in my school days, I always enjoyed test questions like this. These names that we collect from the spirits are various Aztec deities.
Blood of the holy, flesh of the warrior, married to the heart of the land in a union of protection and power. Hear my prayers for divine conjuring. Bring forth the sacred magics of the deep earth to shield this noble warrior from the harsh elements. It is done. Go forth and fulfill your destiny, Olmec. The fate of our village lies in your hands.
While we invoke a ritual to deal with Quetzalcoatl, he's still too powerful. We need to find his mask in order to defeat him. Heading below the village, we'll get a cutscene of Max in his earlier days exploring Aztec ruins and its revelation, the cure for DNAV.
This time? So simple.
DNA test cycle initiated.
Come on. Hold together, you son of a bitch.
Molecular cohesion affirmative.
Yes!
Test cycle downloaded to DVD. Encryptor sequence completed. System shutdown activated.
So now we have more context about that intro cutscene. Looks like someone cut the brakes to his car. I'm going to say paging Dr. Morgan here. Interesting to note that's a DVD and not a CD-ROM. Sanitarium came out in early 1998, when DVDs were starting to emerge. They released to the public in early 1996 in Japan and early 1997 in the West. Computers equipped with a DVD-ROM would have been brand spanking new and cost a pretty penny. Still as Olmec, we must navigate this underground maze to find the mask. The game makes good use of the isometric perspective here. It can be a bit disorienting, unclear if this is a path you can access or not until you try it out. With the mask, we can now deal with Quetzalcoatl. And with that out of the way, Max arrives home with his wife greeting him, but something seems a bit off.
Oh, my poor baby. You had an awful fall. I'm so glad you've come home.
Home?
Well, of course, silly. You did want to come home, didn't you?
Yes, I wanted to...
Well, then that's that. Hush now, Max. When you fell down the chimney, you bumped your head, and now you're a little confused, that's all.
My head hurts. I remember hitting it.
That's right, dear. You hit your head on the chimney. Now don't give it another thought. I'll take care of you.
Chimney? No, I hit it... No, I hit it on... in... my car?
No, of course not, dear. You just bumped...
Yes, my car. I was driving and... the brakes...
But Max, we've been waiting for you for so long. Don't leave now.
We? Who?
Why, me and little Sarah, of course. Who else would it be, silly?
But that's impossible. Sarah is dead.
Sarah! Max is home.
Max, you're home, you're home. I missed you.
You're alive! My God, Sarah! You're... No! You're dead!
Your tenacity is quite remarkable, you know. Your doctor tells me that you should have died in the car wreck. I wish things could have worked out differently, Max, but they didn't. You leave me little choice, old friend. Did you honestly expect me to sit by while you went public with your cure? No. I've worked much, much too hard to allow that. I guess this is goodbye, Max. I'm truly sorry it had to end like this. Farewell.
So now all the pieces are more or less in place. This nightmare world that Max has found himself in, all these strange, disoriented pieces that don't seem to fit, it's a mishmash of his thoughts, his past experiences, his unconscious. Now as he arrives so close to the surface, Morgan does all he can to stop Max by poisoning him. Various elements of prior chapters start to blend into one another in this nightmare world. You got the pumpkin patch, the kids, the giant clown face from the circus, the angelic statue, the hive. Gameplay-wise, there's a nice little twist to this chapter. You can swap between playing as Olmec, Grimwall, and Sarah. There are certain areas that only one character can access. It's straightforward as far as puzzle logic goes, but we're in the end stretch here. You don't need to go overboard.
My God, they must have been illusions. Everything is.
Piecing together the angelic statue, we'll face our final challenge, Dr. Morgan and the shadow self of Max.
You've come far, Max, but I'm afraid it ends here, old friend. As for these, you won't need them any longer. You failed the children of the world, as you failed your sister when she needed you most. You don't have the courage to save them, nor the strength to do what's necessary. You failed everyone. As I've told you countless times before, Max, you've always been your own worst enemy.
While straightforward, I do enjoy this final encounter against the shadow self of Max. Finding the right order along the path, avoiding the black goo to reach our goal, a much better choice than if we had to go with a combat encounter to finish off the game. Which again, the game could have done without combat altogether. And with that, Max is able to overcome the poison, wake up, and things wrap up. More or less all loose ends covered.
It's over.
I'm back. It's over.
Head of the Mercy Drug Corporation, Dr. Jacob Morgan, has resigned. This surprising development comes just a few short months after the corporation made its cure for the DNAV virus available to the public. Dr. Morgan's successor, Max Lawton, the man who discovered the DNAV cure, had no comment.
The trial of Dr. Jacob Morgan, former head of the Mercy Drug Corporation, begins this morning. Federal authorities claim Dr. Morgan hindered the drug's development in an attempt to increase company profits. He may even have gone so far as to sabotage a researcher's car, an act which nearly prevented a true cure from ever being found. Prosecutors are confident that Morgan will be found guilty and sentenced to life in prison.
And so ends Sanitarium. What a fantastic game. It's one I had a tiny bit of awareness of over the years through osmosis, especially that cover art that I remembered as a young lad. The narrative it's able to weave across several chapters is commendable. How with several of these chapters you could build a whole game around, but in Sanitarium they are but a short pit stop before moving on to the next chapter. A narrative that always has you wondering what's real and what isn't. What's the product of Max's mind or the real world? Keeps you engaged all the way up until the end. It's one of the better stories I've come across in the game, and one I'd say that's overlooked. A game that deserves far more recognition for what its narrative offers. Now for that, I will make note of a couple things. Despite its dives into the psyche, the unconscious, Sanitarium is quite clear-cut in what happens. Compare this to other psychological horror games like the Silent Hill series or Rule of Rose. For Silent Hill, more emphasis on the first 4 games. There's plenty of those stories that's up to interpretation, where people have been discussing these narratives for years and decades about what happened in them. Most notable, of course, being Silent Hill 2. While it's not like there is zero ambiguity of what happened in Sanitarium once the credits roll, it does wrap up most of its threads. As well, there's only one ending, whereas Silent Hill loves its multiple endings. Now, not to say that this is a bad thing. Sometimes it's nice to have a story that wraps everything up in a present with a nice little bow on top. But for something like psychological horror, you have that wiggle room to leave things more up to interpretation. I'm not saying that Sanitarium need to give more room for interpretation, but I'd be curious to see how things would have played out if they did. Another thing to know is that while Sanitarium did reasonable numbers sales-wise, his period of the late 90s saw the decline of the point-and-click adventure game, and also the rise of the survival horror games, especially with Resident Evil. Now for point-and-click, you had exceptions like Riven, which came out in late 1997 and was the best-selling PC game of that year, but 1998, the year Sanitarium release, also saw the release of Grim Fandango, a game that its audience loved and continues to love, but wasn't a sales success. A bit of a marking point of the commercial decline of the point-and-click titles. But Sanitarium's developer, Dreamforge, weren't done with point-and-click titles. In fact, they had the chance to work on point-and-click royalty, that being Myst working on Myst 4. The footage you're seeing here, excuse the poor quality, is their version of it. They'd work on the title for a couple of years until mid-2001. Ubisoft would acquire the rights to the Myst series, cancel the Dreamforce iteration, and made Myst 4 internally. And Dreamforge itself would shut down in 2001. While Myst 4 was decent, it wasn't remarkable by any stretch. I'd love to see what the team behind Sanitarium would have done with it. But, wrapping things up here. Sanitarium is a fantastic psychological horror title, one of the better narratives I've come across. Its fearless nature of jumping from one fleshed out set piece to another, where other games have built a whole game around, is commendable. Story and atmosphere that keeps you engaged and wondering until the very end how things will wrap up. I hope you've enjoyed this dive into Sanitarium, or it's something you never played before or had much experience with it. I hope you understand why it's such a great experience. It's one of those games on the channel that I've wanted to look at for some time, and kicking myself now for not doing it sooner. Beyond Clock Tower, I haven't delved into point-and-click horror titles, and I'm glad to have now changed that. Thanks for watching. And I'd like to give a special shout out to the Boulder Punchers who gave extra support to the channel. For those in the complete, global, saturation tier, Flan Nagel. For those in the thank you for your patronage tier, American Boot, Tom Terrible. For those in the now this is Boulder punching tier, Ethan, the Madman in Waco. For those in the Jill Sandwich tier, Benji, BBF in Bloxburg, Dark Rod 99, Extraordinary 2, Happy Tunes, Logie Lepin, Mad Morpheus Gaming, Michael Walters, Nico Perro, Sam Jones, Squid Vicious, Will Han, and Zin. For those who made one-time donations over $5 US on Ko-fi or Super Thanks since my last video, I'd like to thank Brainrich, Dana, Jose Vargas. And now for the post-video Q&A. So those in the Jill Sandwich tier and higher can ask questions. So let's start with Flan Nagel, who asks, what kind of game would you make if you had the resources and time? I'd say something that blends the elements of an immersive sim and survival horror. Like a Deus Ex meets classic Resident Evil. If I wanted to do something more solo, it'd be something like a Conscript, Signalis, Alicia, Crow Country. Thanks for the questions, Flan. From Extraordinary 2. Of all the games you've reviewed up to this point, which one would you want to live in if you had the choice? I think something more offbeat would be my choice. Something like an Illbleed, a Blue Stinger. Bayonetta would be an interesting one. Atomic Heart could be a curious world to live in. I'd probably stay away from a lot of the more horror worlds, But maybe being a Kindred in Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, that could be quite interesting. Thanks for the question. Happy Tunes, can boulders kick too? Yes, but ensure you're wearing proper footwear. Steel-toe boots especially, don't try it barefoot. Thanks for the question. Logan Lepin, what game balanced inventory management the best in your opinion? That will be Resident Evil 1 Remake, probably will always be that. Thanks for the question, Logan. And thanks again. So if you want to receive early access to videos, be featured in the credits, periodic updates, and more, do consider joining as a patron. Or if not monthly, supporting the channel with a one-time donation through Ko-fi and a super thanks. Check the pinned comment and description if you're interested. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.
Slimy squid boy broke loose. Wish I could.
Where is that awful music coming from?
I like this music. It's got a great beat.
Oh, it's making me seasick. Do my ears deceive me?
What? What am I doing here? Who am I? Out!
Greed. Bah. Pride. Bah. Evil.
My name is not meat.
Murals of ancient heroes. What? No painting of the mighty Olmec?